Welcome to Caregiver SOS On Air, presented by the WellMed Charitable Foundation, with nationally known gerontologist Carol Zernial and award-winning veteran broadcaster Ron Aaron. This program provides health, wellness, and other information for caregivers who are vital to the health and well-being of so many people across our country. And now, here are your hosts, Ron Aaron and Carol Zernial.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Caregiver SOS On Air. I'm Ron Aaron. We're delighted to have you with us. We come to you every week with a look at a variety of health and wellness issues that affect caregivers and their care recipients. The award-winning Caregiver SOS On Air on the radio in a number of cities in Texas and Florida as well. And our podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. Tina Smith, our co-host, is here today, substituting for Carol Zernial. Tina is the Senior Director of Caregiver Program Operations through the WellMed Charitable Foundation. She's got a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in social gerontology. Tina's been providing support to family caregivers for more than 30 years. She started her career as a little baby, working in the long-term care industry, and then moved on to serving at the Bexar Area Agency on Aging. And Tina, we are delighted to have you here today.
It is always a joy to be here. I'd love talking about anything related to caregiving, so I'm looking forward to today.
And when you're not working in the field, what are the things you like to do in your off time?
Oh my goodness! Well, I've got a freshman in college and a junior in high school, so I keep busy with them. I like to read and just kind of do a little bit of self-care as well. Try to fit that in.
And speaking of self-care, one of the things we're going to talk about today is the how and why of self-care and being a caregiver and how that's changing in the Black community. Debra Fields is joining us. Debra was born in Chicago, Illinois, raised in Milwaukee. She's a graduate of Alverno College, where she earned a degree in business management and professional communications. After relocating to Arizona with her husband, where she lives now, Debra founded Black Women 65 and Over in 2023. The organization was born out of her commitment to amplifying the voices and relevance of older Black women. And we are delighted, Debra Fields, to have you with us as a new Arizonan. You told me off the air that you're trying to visit every single interesting spot in the state of Arizona.
Absolutely. I hope with a lot of self-care, I'll be around long enough to see a lot of stuff in Arizona.
And that makes up for living in Wisconsin and, you were sad to say, never visiting Lambeau Field.
Ryan, you really had to go there, huh? You really had to do that.
Home of the Green Bay Packers.
Yes.
So, Debra, talk to me a bit about the how and why of self-care and being a caregiver in a changing Black community.
Actually, first let me say thank you, Ron and Tina, for having me here on Caregiver SOS Online. I appreciate the opportunity to share from one Black female's perspective, caregiving and self-care and why it's so important. First of all, I am not ashamed to admit I turned 70 last year. It was before I turned 70 that I realized that self-care is really very important. But at the same time, when I think about self-care, we never used that term self-care. That's really a new trend, a new idea, concept, the whole idea of self-care. And so when we moved to Arizona and we moved during COVID, so I was on lockdown for the first 9 months. So nothing mattered that I didn't have any friends or any contact with anybody but my husband. But when we finally moved into our home, I realized, we didn't have a lot of friends. We knew people here, but not a lot of close friends. Things started happening with me. I was not settled. My spirit wasn't settled, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. When I look back over it, part of self-care was making the decision to move to Arizona. I wanted to be where it was hot. And people, oh, you love the heat? Absolutely. It makes me feel better, makes me feel happier. So that was a self-care decision. Now, at the time, I didn't realize it. I just knew I wanted to be warm year-round. My husband didn't want to mow grass or shovel any snow. But that's, when we talk about self-care, that's where it starts. How do you think about you, your life? And now it's about being intentional. So I understand that idea of self-care differently now because it's more about being intentional.
And as you think about self-care for those who are caregivers, that's one of the challenges most face. Tina Smith, is it not something that really ends up taking their lives?
It certainly can. Caregiving can be a lot. It can, our bodies are designed to hold on or manage a little bit of stress for short periods of time, but not the long periods of time that oftentimes caregivers do. And so if caregivers don't take a break somehow, be intentional in doing something for themselves, then yes, it can definitely have an impact on their health and, worst case, an early death.
And Deborah, what got you interested in the caregiving field?
First of all, when we moved to Arizona, I was seeing signs that I thought I might be developing Alzheimer's, and it terrified me because my grandmother died from Alzheimer's. And I was so worried, when you have to start leaving yourself notes consistently, regularly, it was really scary for me. I found the organization here called Banner Research Institute, and I went there hoping that they would say, no, you don't have Alzheimer's. No, you're not likely to develop it. Fortunately, they did tell me I didn't test for Alzheimer's. And at this point in my life, I wasn't really showing signs of anything other than old age. However, what I discovered was there was more than one type of dementia. I did not know that. I always thought Alzheimer's was the thing. It was it. After going there, I realized that when I was educated on that dementia, Alzheimer's falls under dementia. I have a godson whose mother died from Alzheimer's. He and his family were their caregivers for years until her passing. Not only that, my grandmother died from Alzheimer's, so my mother and her older sister were the caregivers. And I became aware of what it really means to take care of another person. More so, when you think of young kids and taking care of young people, you don't think of it as necessarily caregiving unless they have a disability. Then it looks differently. But when it came to Alzheimer's, now you're talking about an adult who's lived, we hope, a full life. But now, as someone explained to me, not only are you living your life, but you're living their life. And so when Tina talks about the stress, as I listened to my godson, what it meant to be a caregiver for him and his family, for his sister, when the calls from my mother every weekend when she would have to go to Chicago, and I understood. My husband and I both started developing some health issues. I was beginning to really understand what this whole idea of caregiving was going to mean for me and my husband in the future, whether we developed Alzheimer's or not.
Now hold that thought. Hold that thought. I'm going to come right back to you. But Deborah, I want to let folks know who may have just joined us. They're listening to Caregiver SOS on air, and we're delighted to have you with us. The award-winning Caregiver SOS on air, available on podcast as well as in a number of cities in Texas and Florida as well. Our special guest is Debra Fields, and we're talking with her about the how and why of self-care and being a caregiver in changing Black communities. Tina Smith, our co-host today, sitting in for Carol Zernial. I'm Ron Aaron. So, Deborah, we were talking about how you discovered what some of the challenges are, both physically and mentally, for caregivers.
It was one thing when my husband had to have surgery and I had to take care of him for a week. But Tina's right. When you're talking about having to take care of somebody long term, it's a whole different ball game. It's totally different in how you live your life. You don't think about being intentional about making sure you take care of yourself. I've heard from so many relatives who the family watched the caregiver and they would always say, you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself. How can you take care of somebody else if you're not taking care of yourself? So I finally started to understand that. And when I formed the group Black Women 65 Plus, it was about us being caregivers for each other, because some of us moved here and we didn't have any other family. And so it was important that I kept hearing about the key things that you needed to do to age in a way that was healthy. Eating, proper diet, exercise, and that social activity. It's so easy when you are not social to just go into a closet or go into a space where you're not making human connections. And I think that's probably the worst thing. So when I formed Black Women 65 Plus, it was so that we would have social connections, so that we can educate each other and just give each other information on a regular basis.
And how did you hook up with other Black women 65 plus in a new state for you?
I did have a couple of friends who had moved here first. And of course, they would come, they would visit with me, but they also had friends. And so I started inviting them to my house, and we would talk about, what it looks like for us to be aging as Black women, how it's different. And the fact that many of us are now relocating away from our families who in traditional families, and especially in the Black community, we understood that that next daughter in particularly would be the caregiver. But here we are out here in another state, as you say, by ourselves. So we had to look at how do we be caregivers for one another so that we are aging in a way that makes us feel, good, just everything.
And so what did you do? You formed the group, but
Yeah,
what does that mean?
Well, what happened was, as I kept hearing the ladies, we had so much in common. And I said, you know what, let's meet regularly. Let's be consistent. But there are no rules. This will not be a formal thing with an agenda and all of that stuff taking attendance. It'll just be once a month. We'll commit to meeting here. And the floor is yours when you get here. Whatever's going on with you, this will be a safe space for you to talk. But in realizing what we had in common, we thought about, okay, who is this for? We were talking about older Black women. One of the things that I noticed when Kamala Harris was running, I was not hearing from older Black women. I would listen to different podcasts. I would listen to the news, and I would always see younger or middle-aged Black women talking, but I never saw women my age and older. Not that they weren't. It's just that it wasn't real well out there that Black women my age were still actively engaged in doing things. And so by bringing these women together, and the question I asked them was, are we still relevant today? Are we as Black women who are 65 and older, who are now retired, are we still relevant? And so we started looking at, let's talk about all the things that are important to us, our generation. What is it like to be older? What is it like to be out here by ourselves? What are our health experiences? All of that. So that's how I formed Black Women 65 Plus. It's for women who are older, who we have a lot of things in common in terms of our mental, emotional, and physical well-being.
Now, we're going to come right back to you. Stick with us. We're talking with Debra Fields. She's hanging out in Arizona with her husband and formed the group Black Women 65 Plus. Along with us today, Tina Smith filling in for Carol Zernial. I'm Ron Aaron. We're so appreciative of you listening to the award-winning Caregiver SOS on air.
Well, thank you so much for listening to Caregiver SOS on air. We're delighted to have you with us. We come to you every week with a discussion of an issue, a problem, some accomplishments involved in caregiving with more than 60 million caregivers across this country, but most thinking they are the Lone Rangers. We try to bring you the latest information and help that can make that job easier and more manageable. Caregiver SOS on air takes a look at trends across this country. We provide tips on how to be a better caregiver, and most importantly, where you can go for help. On Caregiver SOS on air, we try to give you what you need to make that caregiving manageable and to provide you with the help that can make your life easier. I'm Ron Aaron. Carol Zernial and I are delighted to co-host this program, and we're thrilled you've joined us on the award-winning Caregiver SOS on Air podcasts available everywhere, brought to you by WellMed Charitable Foundation.
Hello, friend. Hello, friend. Really good to see you once again. Hello, friend. Hello, friend. Really good to see you once again.
We're so pleased you're sticking with us right here on the award-winning Caregiver SOS on air. I'm Ron Aaron. Debra Fields is our special guest today. She's the founder of Black Women 65 Plus. She hangs out in Arizona, and we're talking about the how and why self-care and being a caregiver in a changing Black community. And so, Debra, as you talk with the members in your group, are any of them actively caregiving as well?
Yes. One of our members recently lost her husband.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And we are still seeing the effects of loss. The caregiving that she did, I think it's a double-edged sword. It keeps you focused. It keeps you doing something because you're focused on taking care of that person. But at the same time, you give up so much of yourself when you're caregiving that things that you were normally doing for yourself, the way you normally cared for yourself, you stop doing that. I have a cousin in Chicago who he's caregiving for his wife who's been in hospice for 5 years. And it got to the point where the family was saying, you've got to stop. He would go there when the doors open and stay there till they literally had to kick him out. They had to keep telling him, you have to stop. Some of the women now, their husbands are going through things. And again, it's not necessarily long term, but we're talking about heart problems where, people are having things done that it may require some time, a week to 3 months, surgeries, replacements, all of that. Right now, a lot of them are not experiencing long term, but even the short term stuff, because you can't plan for how you're going to necessarily act all the time when you're a caregiver. What you can plan for is, I know that for the next 3 months, my partner is going to need this, this, and that. But what am I going to need? So part of what we do as a group, we tell each other, hey, when something is going on, we'll do the food thing, we'll do the cooking, we'll run errands to help you so that you can take care of yourself, so that you have the energy and the strength to do that. And it's almost, thank you, Lord, on a rotation. One wife, her spouse may be going through something, and then it winds up that one gets better. But then another spouse, her partner, or even our members. And we're trying to work on getting the husbands to understand you have a role in this. We care about you just as much as we care about the women.
I like how you said earlier about, you were learning what self-care really looked like. Because I imagine when we say, oh, you need to take care of yourself, people may think of massages and spas and all of that. But how would you define self-care? What's I guess a better way really to define that's most beneficial for a caregiver?
For caregivers, I would say it is important that you understand what's going on with you first. What are your needs? And you know what, to be honest, Tina, I'm not mad at anybody because you might need to go get a pedicure.
Oh, sure.
Have your toes ever hurt when you didn't get those nails taken care of? Have your feet ever hurt? And when you go for long periods of time without taking care of yourself, that starts to show up in some way or another. So it is the idea of, what do you need? What's going on with you at this time in your life? Being aware. Part of the problem is, as women, we were never given permission to be okay with looking at ourselves, putting ourselves not just first, because that's the whole thing. When you talk about putting yourself first, that seems like, oh my God, you're being so selfish. How can you be like that? But again, how can you not take care of yourself? How can you take care of somebody else if you are literally being drained, if you're not happy, if you're not feeling some kind of, there's something else besides this constant having to think about somebody else. And it's hard because it does feel selfish. So I would say definitely, what are your needs? Being able to meet those needs, whether it's through education, information, or a social group, that's where our focus is. How do you meet your needs? But you got to know what your needs are. And you got to be okay with that. We still are not okay with asking for help. We keep doing everything until it gets to a point where we just feel like, oh my God, there's nothing else that I can do. And fortunately, somebody else comes along and say, hey, have you ever thought about this?
Interesting you say that, because Tina will tell you that you're not alone. Caregivers as a group rarely reach out and ask for help. Tina, what is it about caregivers?
I think we're just ingrained in our society that we take care of our own, for better or for worse. It's my job to do this. And if I am asking for help, that means I'm not upholding what I'm supposed to do, or I'm placing a burden on somebody else, and it's tough. But Deborah's right. I mean, we have to ask for help. I mean, we're in that stage of life. We're in that season of life of needing to do that.
But the other thing too, Tina, it is the idea that, and some of my friends have told me, they acknowledge that they think nobody else can do it as well as they can. Nobody else can take care of my loved one as well as I can. I'm going to make sure my loved one's needs are going to be met. Everything. I'm a mind reader. I'm going to know before they ask, and it's the fear, if you let someone else do it, they're not going to do it exactly the way you would do it. And
That's a
that can
trap.
add some guilt. Yeah.
The
Yeah,
trap, right?
yeah, that's hard. Yeah, that's hard to let go. So does your group, I guess one question is your Black Women 65 plus, is it online? Is it just in Arizona, or do you have nationwide members, or how big is
Now,
your group?
now, Tina, I've only been doing this for 2 years. So we haven't grown that far. But as we've expanded, and one of the things we did was, as a result of the work with my godson, we reached out to Banner Research Institute, and they have partnered with us to do the first in-home, we call it a community discussion. And
Ah,
so Banner Research sent in some professionals to come in and do a presentation. I invited people in my home to talk about it. So what I found that as I've done that, more people are becoming aware of it. More people are asking, can we have and be a part of these conversations and things? So again, it's about once we start getting the word out about something that people find beneficial, then they want to be a part of it. Now, the problem I'm facing, Tina, Ron, is age discrimination. Why does it have to be 65 and older? Because that's who we were when we started it. So now I'm having to look at how do I help or create a space for younger women who may be going through something and they need to have these conversations as well.
Now, one of the things that you're a specialist in is community building. You do community building workshops. And what I'm hearing from you is very similar to what you're doing with your group in Arizona.
Yes, part of the rules that, and community building comes out of the Community Building Institute, which I've been a part of for at least 20 years. And part of the rules that we use help women to feel in a safe space. And one of the rules is, as much as we want to do caregiving, when the women come, I say, when someone has the floor, we allow them to speak. No matter what, we give them all the time they need, because if you've ever known that when somebody says, oh, I've been having this experience, we all want to jump in and give answers. We all want to resolve it. We all want to be the caregivers. But what that does is shut that person down, because maybe they just need to talk about something before they make a major decision. And if we don't allow that opportunity, and that's a part of community building, that's a part of hearing, listening to somebody so that we can know what it is they need versus making the assumption that they need something before they ask for it.
Isn't that a guy thing? I'll fix it. Give me a moment. I'll take care of it.
Yeah, but it's different for us. We have a little more empathy and compassion about it.
And we've got about 2 minutes left before I let you go. Share with us what you have learned about caregiving and how you're reaching out to your community to make that easier and more effective.
One of the things that I've learned that's a big, big thing is that we have to be okay with understanding we can't do it by ourselves. We have to be okay with that, and being okay with finding out where are the resources in my community that might be able to help me. And then forgiving ourselves when we can't do all of it. The guilt can weigh you down when you can't do it. And so taking care of yourself means being okay with reaching out for help, forgiving yourself for not being perfect at it, and then doing the very best that you can, keeping in mind that you have to be your very best through education and opportunities for being better.
Now, if folks want to learn more about what you're doing with Black Women 65 plus, do you have a website that they can go to?
No, not at this time, but I'm more than happy to share my phone number. It's 414-405-7244.
You get to do that twice on the radio. What is it?
414-405-7244.
And you don't mind folks calling you?
Just understand, it may take me a day or so to get back to you.
So leave a message if you don't get you live.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And as you go down this path, before you came on, I saw your husband in the background. You introduced him as your tech support. Does he get involved at all? What does he think of what you're doing with Black Women 65 plus?
Oh, absolutely. My husband is the cook in our household, so we serve things. The women bring things, but he cooks whatever his specialty is. They enjoy it, having a man cook for them, and he enjoys doing it. But he also helps me with, like, when I'm doing the invitations. I'm sending out an invitation for our second part of our series. He helps design the invitations. And if I've had a hard time, he's there to support me emotionally. And that's
Perfect.
a big, big deal.
I want one of those. Thank you very much. Debra Fields, appreciate you being on. For Tina Smith, I'm Ron Aaron. Thanks for joining us on the award-winning Caregiver SOS On Air.
The executive producer for Caregiver SOS On Air is Daniel Calderon. The producer is Sharice Pendleton. And the associate producer is Catherine Oglesby. We'll see you next week on Caregiver SOS On Air.
You've been listening to Caregiver SOS On Air, an exclusive presentation of the WellMed Charitable Foundation. We welcome emails with suggestions and comments on this program at radio@wellmed.net. Join co-hosts Carol Zernial and Ron Aaron next week for more on caregiving, improving the health and well-being of caregivers and their care recipients everywhere. For more on caregiving and podcasts of our programs, visit caregiversos.org.